first negative speaker. So I'm just going to start by saying that, yes, ISIS, like as he told us, it is a big problem right now. But in fact, ISIS is, we're working with them right now. We have troops over there that are, we have airstrikes and unmanned drones that are targeting ISIS leaders and are also forcing airstrikes on cities that are mostly ISIS populated. In ABC News, the U.S. military said that ISIS is day by day losing ground in Iraq. This can be exemplified by ISIS fighters. They sent us a video themselves, and the ISIS fighters themselves said that recently they withdrew from al-Islam bit by bit because the airstrikes and deaths of a number of their brothers were just too much. The reason that their withdrawal from the city was that they no longer had places to hold there. They were inside the city and they occupied more than 70% of it, but the airstrikes did not leave any building standing and it destroyed everything. So as you can see, just by the airstrikes, it is pushing them back and it is killing a lot of their people, which is our main goal, is to kill mainly ISIS, the ISIS fighters, and not that many civilians. And the reason why large military intervention wouldn't be effective in this circumstance is because the U.S. has little to show for this massive investment, which raises questions of likelihood that it would even work. David Ignatius, a writer for the Washington Post, said that as the U.S. has witnessed over the past decade, the obsession with counterterrorism can drag the country into unwinnable and immoral acts. This can be exemplified through Iraq and Vietnam in the past. How we go in, we put our troops there, we fight against them, we try to put someone who's in power and is going to influence the country in a democratic way. But then right as we pull out, the country goes back into instability. So this brings me to my point: what are U.S. Ground troops needed? CBS News did a poll for American citizens for the popular vote, and in fact, 39% of people said that yes, they are needed, and a majority, 55% of people said that no, our present efforts right now are going to be enough to defeat ISIS. And also another disadvantage or another workability issue with actually putting more troops into the Middle East is that the cost of increasing the weaponry and manpower in the Middle East is just simply too much. Eric Cannon, writer for the Fiscal Times, said that increasing the aid will cost $30 billion to $40 billion a year, on top of the Pentagon's $496 billion fiscal 2015 operating budget and $58.6 billion overseas contingency operations. So as you can see, that is a lot of money. Also, an analysis by the Defense Department on April 15th concluded that sequestral level budgets would result in continued cuts in force levels across the military services. So in essence, the money that we are going to be using to send the troops out there, we would need here to actually have to cut our military troops, which isn't good. There will be a reduction to 420,000 active duty soldiers in the Army and a drop to 175,000 soldiers in the Marines. And this was also done by a study by Eric Cannon in the Fiscal Times. And so I'm just going to talk about a little bit what we actually have going on in the Middle East right now to combat ISIS. So Obama's proposed authorization would last for 3 years and would have no geographical limitations. It calls for flexibility for limited ground operations by the U.S. militants and rules out a long-standing ground force. So pretty much we just have our forces in there to secure regions and also to help identify ISIS leadership so we can take them out. This plan is favored by 54% of Americans and is only not favored by 39%. This present plan, as I said, gives military flexibility to confront unforeseen circumstances by deploying special forces in the region. This resolution would give the president authority to authorize ground combat operations in limited circumstances. So let's say if we did need rescue operations or special operations, he could do that in order to take down ISIS leaderships. And so President Obama, his plan, he's adamant that we do not deploy more than 2,000 soldiers that will only be there for security and to protect the U.S. interests. Obama's main goal is to train the moderate Syrian rebels to help combat ISIS and Syria, as well as support the Iraqi government's army. So this is saying pretty much just putting troops in there to give them the tools that they need to be able to take control of their own country themselves. That way, we are avoiding war with the terrorist group, at the same time, hopefully reversing and aiding them in bringing their country out of instability. And finally, the U.S. would be making a repeated mistake if we were to increase troops in the Middle East. Critics of the Iraq intervention said that escalating into Syria would represent exactly the kind of mission creep that we have been warned about. We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. That's a quote from Stephen Miles, the director of Win Without War. Pretty much, as I said earlier, just that we've seen it in Iraq, Vietnam, all those places that we go in, we help for a little while, and then once we leave, the government falls apart.